Hello and welcome to hobby vlog number 40. Quite crazy to think that I've done this 40 weeks in a row, including going away for business, but I have managed it. If you are enjoying this content and you are not yet subscribed, do please consider clicking that button, and also don't forget to ding the bell and select all so that YouTube will bother to tell you when one of the videos goes live. This weekly vlog is going to consist of a number of different projects. I've actually been relatively productive this week, though again not as productive as I was before I went back to work, for obvious reasons, time being the major issue. I am very pleased, however, about the slight mix-up that I announced, or the mix-up, I say the slight change-up that I announced last week, whereby I'm doing slightly less. I'm going to be pressuring myself slightly less and just trying to enjoy it a bit more. And that has definitely had an impact this week, which has been really, really enjoyable. I'm stoked about a couple of the projects I'm working on now, really excited again, and hopefully you'll be enjoying them and will be excited as well when you see them. So I will go back to the beginning of the week and take you through my week, and I'll see you again at the end of the video to thank you for watching, and I will thank you for watching now. So yes, thank you for watching. It's time to clean up a few of these builds which have been hanging around for quite a long time. And the first one I'm going to make a start on finishing is this scatter terrain, which was supposed to have been completed in July for a challenge, and clearly, this being the 2nd of August, wasn't. But that's life. So I did airbrush originally the green, but I'm not going to be airbrushing this in now because I just only have a tiny amount to do, and B, I can't be bothered with masking, etc. So I'm going to be lazy. So this is using the surface primer from Vallejo Earth Green Early 74611, and it's exactly the same as I used when I did the spray. So I'm going to come in here with my large glazing brush and apply this to the tissue paper, which I put on the last time I touched this many weeks ago. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'll bring you back for the next step when I get to it. It's pretty much just a case of applying it very carefully, very thinly. I don't want to damage the tissue paper. It's very, very, very delicate. So I'm just going to be really delicate with this. Take my time, not rush it, and apply this thin wash over the tissue paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in the stripes that you can see on the card here on these sails for the sloop. And I've got neutral grey here, which is Vallejo's 70992, and I'm just going to do one on camera because it's really hard to keep in shot, and I want this to be okay to view. So what I'm going to do is I've just got the Insane Detail brush from Army Painter. Sorry, I'm also tired and very hot. You can probably hear the fan in the background. It's about 40 degrees today, and my paint is drying on my brush, which is also an issue. So we're just going to draw these lines in as well as we can to give the same impression as we've got on that little card. I'll pop some music on. I'll only do this one on camera, and then hopefully this will give a nice kind of effect. I would really like to get this done so I can get a game in, because that's why I bought the thing. Much as I love painting, I actually want to play with these. Sorry about my hand getting in the way. It's quite hard. I should probably put the camera on the other side as I'm right-handed. Maybe next time I'll do that, I'll remember. But all we're doing here is just quick swipes to get this effect. It's really drying on my brush a lot, this. Even drying on the wet palette. There we are. So that's near enough the effect. Not very good. but I keep saying I'm not really a great painter. I do good enough. I'll show you that you can do good enough. You don't need to panic. Right, so there we are. I'll be back when I've finished and show you what they all look like. There's only another couple to do. I figured while I was working on doing the sand and paint, which I've just done for the next build of the Battle Games of Middle-earth, that I should potentially get this done as well. It's waiting to be finished from a couple of videos ago, and I would really like to get it done. So it's a big job. I'm not going to film it all. It's going to take a long time for me to do this in lots of stages, mainly because the modelling compound actually is quite thirsty, so I can't do it in big batches. I need to paint in small batches, put the sand on, move on, put the sand on. I can't do like all of this section at once. It would be too big. It would dry too quickly, especially with it being 30 something degrees right now. Let me show you, 31 degrees currently inside. I don't know, it's not really showing up very well, but yes, 31 degrees inside, so it's a bit too hot really. So I'm just going to crack on with this and get all of this covered in the brown paint, and then scatter sand on it and leave it to dry, and then I can dress it and I'll bring you back for the next stage when it's done. But it will basically just be all of this white stuff will be painted brown and put sand on. The sand is dried, but there are a couple of little spots which are here and here, which didn't dry, or I didn't actually get any sand on. They were still white, so I've just popped a little bit more brown paint and scattered some sand on. And what that means is I'm not going to be able to right now do the second coat of the brown over the top, which is a bit of a shame. However, there is a task that I have to do, which I am going to start now and get this done, because it's lunchtime. I've got a few minutes, not very long. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working on this area, and I'm just going to paint that black. I'm not going to go down inside. I'm just going to paint over the tops at this stage. I've got some cleaning up to do, and I want to plan out maybe potentially a wall across here or something, and that's going to eventually have slabs down on it as well, done with the Green Stuff World Roller. So I'm just going to get my terrain paint, black terrain paint that I've got here, and paint it over the top of where you've got this the blue foam exposed on the top. So I'll get that done, and I'll be back to show you the next step when I get to it. This is drying. I put a little bit of black on the front as well, just to finish that off, and the sand is now dry enough that I can put the next coat over it. So I'm just going to get that done. It might take a couple of sittings. I've not got very much time now, just waiting for something to build at work, so I'm just going to take that 2 minutes and get stuck in. I'll bring you back for the next stage, which will probably be working on the inside here, because then it will be scenicking and I'm done. This is nearly finished, it's not far off. So we're going to work on the inside of the cellar, whatever you want to call it, basement. Time to seal the flock. And I'll do that using the terrain paint, which is what I used to glue down the flock originally. And I put a very thick coat all over the top of all of the flock. It looks very white when you start doing this, but don't worry, it does dry clear. And if you do this properly and give it a good seal, then your flock will be very, very solid and will not fall off while playing, or in 6 months or so you won't start suddenly finding bits of green all over your gaming board. So I'll get that done off camera. Just wanted to show you that I was doing this stage. Quite often I forget to actually film myself doing this because it's such a habit. I just get straight into it. But you really do need to put a good solid seal over the top of flock, otherwise it will fall off and then you'll be a sad person. So I'll get this finished off camera. I think there might be 1 or 2 more things to do to this before I call it completely done, but it's getting there. It's not far off now. What you see in front of you is the concept art which Angela chose for me for this challenge, and as soon as I saw it I just knew I had to use that one. It's absolutely brilliant. I love the way the light is, and I love the slightly monochrome colour. It's just a beautiful picture, and I'm really looking forward to trying to translate this into a 3D, which is going to be quite a challenge, but hey, nothing worth doing is ever easy, or most things worth doing aren't easy. The artist is John Howe. I will be popping his name on the screen as well while this picture's up, because I do like to accredit correctly. And the way that I'm going to achieve this is without using water effects. I'm going to attempt to do it just with textures and colours. I'm not entirely sure how, but that is what I'd like to do. So let's get over to the workbench. I'll show you the materials and the base that I've chosen, and I will get this started. I've got 2 months to do this, so as long as I go at this nice and steadily, I should achieve my goals. But I really love this picture and I cannot wait to get stuck in. These are the bases that I'm selecting between for this challenge. I bought these from Jumbo, which is like a full of rubbish shop. Amazing, love it, full of tat. That's awesome for use on for modelling, and they are 3D or deep base picture frames. Now I used one of these previously to do the display for Rosie's wall for our first holiday with ASoS, and it's still hanging on her wall and it's brilliant. It's got stones and shells that I picked up off the beach there, and that's the sort of thing that this is purpose for. As you can see, it's got these funky little pictures and clips and what have you. That's how it's supposed to be for. However, I'll be taking that all apart and building up this diorama on this base. I don't know which size I'm going to do yet. I'm going to do a little bit more planning, going to get my pencil and paper out to start doing some drawing and work out some rough dimensions, but either one of those will work perfectly. So that's what I'm going to use as a base. This will then mean that I can actually put this on the wall quite nicely. I can even hang it so that it's maybe sticking out from the wall. I could do all sorts of different ideas. I'm not sure. I could potentially take two of these, attach them. There's all sorts of ideas I've got at the moment which I need to pursue and come up with the best solution. So yeah, this is, as you can probably tell from my voice, this is really enthusing me, and I'm really looking forward to solving all these questions and coming up with something amazing. In today's This Is Why We Really hobby, in this pot here I have the evidence of a bit of a tragedy. Rosie loved this. This was her pride and joy. She would run around with it, and I warned her over and over again against running too fast. And while I was away in Germany, unfortunately, she had it in her hands and she tripped and fell. And as you can see, it got smashed quite badly into very small slivers. Now my aim today is to attempt, if I can possibly do so, to glue this back together at least within close to how it was, and then it can go on a shelf. And if we can't work it, if it doesn't work, then I will buy another one, because they're not expensive, but I'd rather try to save this one. I think that's a better thing to do. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at the pieces and see if I can work out in which order I should place them and glue them to get them back into place. So this might be quite a difficult process because, as I say, it has pretty much shattered. Now that bit will not want to go on first, but it will go there when it does go on, so that's good. This bit, I think, so that bit there goes there, which shows that that bit there needs to go in first. I have had a little brief look at this before I started filming, but not a very long one. Okay, so I think that actually glues right down inside. So I think the first thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting some glue in there, maybe even some green stuff or some putty or something like that, and gluing this bit in place. And then once that's done, I will be able to, once that's in place and secure, I will then be able to put that bit over the top. I think that's the order which I'm going to do it in. So I'm going to go get some putty, change the battery on my camera because it's about to die, and I'll be back to show you how that works very, very shortly. Okay, we have some green stuff. I'm just going to dip my fingers in some water and then make that from its blue and yellow form into green stuff. And what I'm then going to do is wedge that into the little gap that you see here and then press this antenna into place. That will be the first stage of this fix. I will get myself a sculpting tool to assist. So I will push that in. Sorry, you can't really see. I'll push that in underneath. Oh, I broke it worse. I just found, well, I broke it worse, but I also prevented it from breaking again. I think this may be beyond repair. I think we're going to have to buy a new one. Looking at it, this is shattered right the way through. Though maybe not. I'm not going to give up yet. I'm going to see whether I can repair this. I would really like to for her, bless her heart. Such a sweetheart. Right, so what that'll do is that will press into the green stuff using the sculpting tool to press it in, and then let that to go off. And that will hold it nice and strongly. And what I will then do is glue what I just broke myself, which was obviously clearly still damaged, already damaged. I will use my super glue to glue back those two bits that just fell off. I think this super glue is still against all the odds working. I hope it is. No, maybe it's not. This has lasted far longer than I ever expected it to. Right, I'm going to grab myself a toothpick. I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so I've got myself some toothpicks, which means I can get the super glue out. I am that tight that I can get the super glue out on my toothpick and spread it where I need it to go. And there's a little tip for you as well. Should you have a tragedy like this, where it looks like your super glue is dead, as long as you can open the jar, you can always use a toothpick. Okay, so with that glued on, I'm now going to give an attempt at actually sticking this other antenna on, because it will be mutually supporting. I think it's worthwhile trying to do it all at once. And also I'm really worried I'm going to lose things, so I may as well just make use of everything that I've got to hand and try and glue it all back together as quickly as possible. And also super glue does dry quite quickly, so the green stuff will be the structure. So let's get this and slot that into place. There we are. Look at that, it's getting there. And now we have the last but not least, the eye, which hopefully will slot in. Maybe I need to do that first, like so. Yes. Right, where's my tool? There we are. A little bit more super glue around that. Super glue is a wonderful thing, isn't it? It's not quite as wonderful as PVA, but it's close. And then that can drop in over the top. And it's a bit cracked, and it's a bit imperfect, but that might even help her to love it even more. So there we are. I have managed to save Rosie's little toy. I'm very, very pleased about that. I'm going to put that to one side very, very carefully, leave it to dry, and then it can go on her shelf, and she can have that as a memento of when she was a little baby and she fell over and broke her little ladybird thing. And I'll probably buy her another one to run around and break in the future as well anyway. So yeah, I'm a generous daddy. I've been doing some planning, I've been doing some looking, and I've been studying some images online, and I've been working out which one of these two frames I want to use for this diorama. So what I'll do now is I will flick up on screen a still from the film which I found on Google Images, which gives a bit of an idea about just how wide Durin's door was, not as wide as I thought, when scaled up against Gandalf. So you can see right in the middle there's Gandalf stood looking at the moonlit runes and working out how to say friend in Elvish. And here you can see I have a 28mm miniature from the Mines of Moria box set of Gandalf. A little bit of a wonky staff, but yeah. And I'm looking at which width is going to work best. So I can put him there, and the doorway is about yay wide, which would give space either side for the holly trees to come up. Excuse me. Or I can put him here, and the door yay wide, which will mean that the holly bushes will be right on the corner. Now if we flick back to look at the concept art that I'm working from, you can see that the concept art does have a bit of space on either side where you've got the rock face and the door, and then just the holly bushes is not actually going to be sufficient to actually recreate the display, which is a bit annoying because this is a bit much bigger frame. What I would prefer is to have one that's that wide and only so deep, because this is going to have a lot of the lake in it, but then that's pretty cool as well. So what I think I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the bigger one, which is, as I say, not what I expected. I thought that this would be enough, but having studied those source images, I'm going to be using the bigger one, and we're going to be building it in this direction. Now I know I could, of course, do that, but then the lake is going to be very short, and if we flick back again to the source image, what I think is that watcher is quite a way out out of shore. So looking at the actual frame that I'm going to be building, I think that the watcher is going to be sitting somewhere around here. So on reflection, this is definitely the correct size of board. So I'm going to open it up, I'm going to pull all of the stuff that I don't need out of the way, get rid of it, and then we'll get started with looking at how we're going to build the cliff face, how tall I'm going to make it, and how I'm going to do that doorway. And I have got a plan for that, which I will show you in a second. I've just had a wonderful idea, and my friend had the same idea at the same time and suggested it to me, but I was already looking. But it will delay this build slightly because I've just ordered from Amazon, and that will arrive in the next week or two, but maybe I'll be able to work on the earlier stuff before it arrives, because what I've done is I've ordered a black light torch and some UV paint, which is going to mean that I can make this glow, which is going to be amazing. So anyway, very excited about that. What I'm doing now is I'm starting to plot out the layout and where each of the elements is going to go. So at the back, we're going to have the stone shelf with the two trees, which I will sculpt in. We'll have a cliff coming up, and then the doorway will be dead center here. As we come further this way, let me move this a little bit more, we will have the watcher. And I bought these ages ago. These are polystyrene balls, very useful. And if I shave the bottom third or so off, then that will sit very nicely and will look like the watcher's head just poking out of the water. And I will then be able to sculpt in around it, not entirely sure what with, and we'll be able to do the water around it coming up towards the bank and to the cliff. So the way that I'm going to approach this is I'm going to do the cliff first, I'm going to do the bank, have it sloping down into the water because it does, and work out how I'm going to do the trees. I have some ideas on how I'm going to do that, but I need to do a little bit of experimentation and work on it. So the first thing to do is get my pencil, which I have here, move these things out of the way, and start drawing. So let's do this. So the shape of the bank, let's make sure that we do this so that we can have a Gandalf sat in front of the doorway if we wish. We're probably going to be having taking up a fair bit of the back with a cliff face, so let's presume that we'll be coming out 40 mil from the end potentially. There we are. Let's get a shorter ruler so I can... Right, I'm back with a shorter ruler. That'll help. So if we think that that's roughly where the cliff face is going to be, not that it'll be straight, but it's good enough that we can see what's going on. What we then need to have is Gandalf needs to be able to stand about there. The more I'm looking at this, the more I'm thinking I made the right choice in terms of which base to use. So Gandalf needs to be able to stand back here, and that means that the water probably is going to be wanting to come up to around here. That's probably where we want to be having the water approach. It is close, but it's not so close that there's not room for them to move. So that means that if that's going to be the case with the bank, the doorway is about 3 Gandalfs wide. So his base is 25mm, obviously. So 3 of them is 7.5 centimeters. So if we find the center of this, let's find the center. This is 32 centimeters wide, this thing. So if we dot down at the 16, that's the center. Just mark that nice and clearly. Then if we're going for a 7.5 centimeter wide door, let's call it 8 centimeters for the sake of it, then the doorway is going to be there to there. That's good. And that means that we will have the roots and the tree will be here and here, with the roots coming in down towards the water. My excellent sketching. So that's how that will look. Let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see a bit better, because the contrast isn't great from that distance. There we are. I think you can see that a little bit better. So what will happen is, there's Gandalf stood in front of the gates. The gates are going to be here. We're going to have the holly bushes coming up here with the roots going down into the water, and the water will be lapping up around to that level. So that gives me a good idea of what kind of materials I need. Not very much. So the next thing to do is going to be to put this rocky slope in, and I'll do that with XPS. I'll fill that with XPS. I might even do most of the base here where the water is with a thin, I've got some 1 centimeter blue foam which might be able to fill that in a bit so that I don't have to use quite so much more expensive material. So yeah, so that's what I might do first, is fill this with the foam, and then 1 centimeter up to the edge of where I want the water to be, and then transfer this onto it, and then start to sculpt in the bank. So I'll get that done. I'll bring you along for that. A little bit of nattering in that, quite a long clip of talking, but I think that explains my plans. So let's get stuck in with some making now. Alright, so I have my 1 centimeter foam, and I have my measure so that I can cut this to size. So in terms of the width, we want it to be 293 mil. 293. I'm not normally a fan of attempting to cut things to that accuracy, to be honest, but we'll give it a go. I'm not normally that accurate at all. So that's 293, and then that's 293 up that end as well. There we are. So let's draw that line in and then cut that. Again, muttering a bit to myself about not having a long enough safety ruler. Really ideally would have one of my safety rulers here. That's not really doing very well. You know what, let's just go straight for the knife. Where did I put it? 1 second. Right here. Right in front of me. So we are now going to try that cut, but with a knife, because that pen didn't work. Being really careful. Very thin foam, so that should fit in nicely. He says it doesn't. Oh, it does. Look at that. That's like a glove. Right. So how long do we want it? And then we'll glue that in place. So it's going to be 492. This is so not my usual style. Normally it's like, yeah, it's about. Close enough. So right, let's cut that at 492 mil. Absolutely perfect. That's going to slot in very, very nicely. So what I'm going to do now, I won't do this on camera, I will transfer over my little sketch here onto the top of this so that I have the same dimensions that I've just worked out, and then I will probably just use PVA. I might go for the Gorilla Glue to stick this down, and I'll weight it, but yeah, I'll bring you along for the gluing, but I'm just going to now transfer over this design onto the top of that. Serendipitously, I love that word, this offcut of the blue foam actually sits almost exactly to where I would like to have that the water coming up over. So what I'm going to do before I stick this into here is I'm actually going to cut this down to size for width and stick it on, and that will then mean I can then shave it down a bit, or even not, because I might actually end up doing another depth of the blue foam over the top. So I might actually cut another one of these to go underneath it of the same height. That will then mean that this sits nicely just below the level of the surround, and then this can sit on top and just be the rise that's going to be coming out of the water. So yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit more of a playing around with my blue foam before I do any sticking, and we'll make sure that what I have, because the rise is not very far, it's a very, very small rise. It's only a foot or two above the level of the lake that the gate is, so it doesn't need to come up that far. So yeah, so I'm going to have a bit of a play around. I might end up, as I say, laminating 2 of these 1 centimetre sheets together just to fill this area a little bit better. It's a very flat lake. So yeah, let's see what happens. I'll bring you back in and show you how that looks when it's done. Right, we've got our sections cut. So I'm going to glue these down. I am going to use Gorilla Glue, I've decided, Gator Glue, sorry, because why not? I've got it and it's going to be stronger. So what we'll do is we'll put some Gator Glue down on the base, which will just mean that it will be nice and strong. There we are, like that. And then we'll press it in. I don't know whether I'll keep this sound or not, because this might sound very nasty. Yeah, it didn't sound too bad at all, did it? There we are. And then what we can do is we can put the next layer on, and as you can see that now, as long as I can pull it back out again, but that is actually now a very nice base level layer, there we are, to build the terrain on top of and do some scenicking. There we are. Press that in. Push it all down really tight, and what that will actually end up doing is making a really good base. So what I might do is leave off, actually no, I'm going to glue this in place and then I'm going to weight it. So let's put some glue on the bottom of this, which is the raised area. There we are. And that can go there. There we are. And now we will get weights, lots of weights, and we will put that down. First of all, we'll put the lid on the glue, actually. There we are. Lots of weights. I have lots of weights. I get so much exercise, but these weights always get used just for weighting down terrain. So plenty of weights there. And then we have these weights as well, which will sit in nicely like that. So that is going to be really secure. So I'll let that to dry. It's dinner time now, so I'll go and have my dinner, and when I come back that will be ready to work on with the next stage. Excellent. Well, hobby and after dinner didn't happen because time with Rosie did, which is far more valuable, and I presume that is now dry anyway, but I've not even looked at it since, so there we are. It was a really good week, as you can see, and particularly to mend the little toy for Rosie. That's a really cool way of using the skills that I'm developing, and it's really good to have done that for her. She loved it. She was so happy. She ran around holding it. But right now it is sat on a shelf because it's just a little bit too delicate to be really played with like she would like to. But at least she's so happy, and she sees it and shouts and yells when she sees it, so that's great. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you've got this far, I'm sure that you must have done. Please do pop a comment below, let me know anything that you want to know. I love hearing from you, so there's no real reason for any subject. Just say hi if you want to, and I will be back on Tuesday with another video. It's Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays is when I do my videos. So I will close off, as I always do, with a virtual cup of tea, because I don't have one with me tonight. I've just finished it before shooting this, and I'll say please do make sure to stay healthy, stay safe and stay well.